about Scorpio moon. What is up with your thoughts? And this is a very critical topic because many people who have moon in Scorpio, myself included, you deal with some pretty tormenting thoughts. It may not be all the time, it may not be consistently, but you may have stuff come up that is disturbing and unsettling and really weighs you down or really distracts you from just normal daily things, or it may make you want to withdraw and isolate from people because you don't know what the hell's going on with you. So I want to talk about Scorpio moon displacement and how your thoughts are affected and why it's important that you pay attention to what's going on in your unconscious. So when you think about the ocean is deep, dark, cold. We can only imagine what is at the depths of the ocean. So likewise, within our mind, within our psyche, we can only imagine, and quite literally that's what the mind does. It tends to conjure up, create, imagine, fixate, obsess, all of these different projections that if you're not careful, you can really absorb it and hold on to it and almost be crippled by your own thinking and your own thought patterns. Scorpio moon, it's important to know what's going on inside of you. You have to be aware of your triggers. You have to be aware of your vulnerabilities. You have to be aware, even if you're feeling like you're losing it. People don't like to admit when they're feeling psychologically unstable. They don't like to admit when they're dealing with inner demons. Keep in mind that Pluto is the god of the underworld, as it is commonly described in astrology. So when I think of the god of the underworld, I pretty much think of the devil, and that with that influence is going to come a measure of torment. So I'm not saying this to make anyone uncomfortable, but I have to be real in the sense that this is not an easy placement for the psyche, because not only is the moon in her fall, but that debilitation has a lot to do with you feeling unable to fight back. You feeling a bit like you're feeling subject to the darkness that you can't really get rid of because it's in you. It's a part of your mind. It's a part of your psyche. You were born when the moon was in Scorpio. So your emotional body is going to be submerged in all things of a Plutonian theme. And it's not all bad, it's not all negative, and it's not intended to be it's not intended to cripple us mentally, emotionally, psychologically. Do we feel crippled by our own thoughts when they're dark and tormenting and unpleasant, when they're inappropriate, disturbing, unsettling? Yes, we do feel crippled by that because we want to live normal lives. You want to be able to hold a conversation with someone and not envision yourself, stabbing them, or not envisioning a bomb going off, or whatever's going on in your head that you maybe ignore it. Maybe some of you ignore your thought patterns because you've gotten used to it. And maybe for some of you, it's such a distraction that you find yourself withdrawing from people, spending a lot of time alone and in isolation. Or you, again, smoke, get high, you drink, you do something to distract yourself from your own thoughts, your own mind. So the purpose of understanding the thought patterns that come along with having a Scorpio moon is so that you can empower yourself with the knowledge of your nature in order to remedy, rectify, reconcile, balance those energies that are coming at you. This is what it is to become an alchemist. You have to find a way to accept and reconcile with what's going on within you in order to move beyond it, to overcome it, to essentially become empowered by the one thing, the very thing that was crippling you or had you feeling crippled by it to begin with. So a personal example, I have Pluto transiting my first house, and it's been transiting my first house for some years now, and I can recall times where I almost became fixated on death and thoughts of death. And it could seem unsettling and dark and, make you feel negative about yourself. But in all actuality, many people think about death, and it's so uncomfortable of a thought that we push it away, we resist it, we find ways to distract ourselves from the idea of death. for me, when I was thinking about it, especially with this Pluto transit, it was so unsettling because I felt it was almost like a premonition. I was thinking, well, maybe I'm thinking about death because death is imminent for me, or I didn't know how to receive these thoughts. And so I felt fear, I felt uncertainty. I was just going through a lot. And the transformation that I experienced from this Pluto transit and the thoughts of death is that eventually I had to accept the idea that it was possible. Like, we all die. So I was like, well, you know what? Eventually, you know, we all are gonna die. Maybe I need to think about this differently. Instead of being afraid and cornered by my thoughts of death and fear and leaving my life behind, I began to accept it, and I was waking up with a new sense of purpose. Like, imagine if you lived every day of your life as if it was your last day. How much more enriched and fulfilling would your life be if you thought of it that way? And not from a state of fear, but just, wow, I'm accomplishing things that I've been wanting to accomplish. I'm reaching out to people. I've kept postponing that phone call. I'm doing things now where I feel a bit more, you know, alive, because the thought of death has placed you in that mindset. So in this way, Pluto can be very transformative. So I say, for some of you, when you think about death and it makes you unsettled, when you think about, you know, suicide and it disturbs you because deep down inside you don't want to harm yourself or take your life, but that Pluto influence can introduce these thoughts of self-sabotage, self-sacrifice, of self-destruction, and you want to be aware of your mental space at all times so that you know what to defend yourself against. Scorpio moon, you are a spiritual warrior. This is why you have this very difficult placement, because you're being initiated into the things that many people resist and many people are afraid of. So if you're thinking and having fixations about things that are taboo, things that unsettle you, death and sex or pain, or, you know, whatever crazy stuff is swirling around in your beautiful skull, whatever those thoughts may be, see what message is hidden in that, you know, boulder of uncomfortability. It's uncomfortable. Like, we get it, but you're a Scorpio. You're bred for this. So assimilate with what's going on within you. Understand what's going on within you. This is the alchemy. This is the inner alchemy that I talk so much about, because we're understanding ourselves through our experiences. But just because it's an experience that you really don't want to have doesn't mean there's not a valuable jewel, a valuable lesson in that experience, internal or external. So if it's things that are going on within you, in your emotional body, in your thought patterns that make you feel unsettled, see, this is the Marine or the Black Ops specialist or whatever they're called. What is it? Like a soldier who's going through the grueling training. Sorry. Mercury retrograde has been messing with my speech all night. So that soldier that's going through that grueling training to prepare him for, you know, battle or what is it called? Like an operation mission. Thank you. Preparing him or her for a mission that to everyone else, we couldn't endure it. We're not mentally and psychologically prepared to do some of these missions that people in, you know, positions of military and so forth have to go through. So that uncomfortable training is preparing them for the mission they have to go on. Your uncomfortable thoughts, your uncomfortable emotions, your painful past experiences, everything that seems to burden and plague you, because I've seen many comments where people say, this placement is evil, Scorpio is, you know, the worst, this is a curse. Because I understand, I feel the energy when it's weighing on me. And what I have learned to do and what I am sharing and extending to you all is, when you have these emotional attacks and psychic attacks and energy attacks where you feel tormented and confined and suppressed, and it's building up in you and you don't know where to go or who to turn to, you have to realize that you yourself have a force within you. You have been empowered with tools to operate in this world. So for that soldier, you may see a huge gun, a weapon that you have no idea how to use, that they have to use in combat. You don't know anything about it. You've not undergone the training. And if you had to go on base and you see this machinery, these big, huge guns and how they're used, it's very overwhelming and it's intimidating. But to this soldier who's trained to use it, it's a weapon of defense and he's prepared to use it. So for many of you, you're undergoing this training and you're being given these tools that to everybody else is like, oh, you know, what is that big gun you've got? If you're a Scorpio moon, that big gun is my sense of self-empowerment. It's my sense of willpower. It's my inner strength. It's the inner God that's arising in me out of the ashes of all the shit I've been through. So you are a magnificent being in that regard, that you're being equipped for this world. Look around you. Look at this reality you live in. This is not an easy life for many of us, whether you have an easy life in terms of your finances and your, you know, your home. It may seem easy, but the moon deals with the collective unconscious. So there's a lot going on in your mind that has to do with how the outer world is affected. People's fears and phobias and all of that stuff seeps into your auric field and affects your thinking and your emotional stability. So it's a difficult environment to be in, and you have to be built for it in order to endure and to really have a contribution to the evolution of humanity. So everyone has the cards they've been dealt to endure this world, but you in particular have been given tools that to everyone else may be intimidating. To everyone else, they can't handle it. To everyone else, they're not prepared to go on these missions. But you're being initiated into this life and forced into these missions because it's what needs to be done to secure and protect the evolution of humanity. We can't continue to live blindly and in ignorance and in denial and in secrecy and hiding away all these things. That's why so much stuff is coming to the surface. So much stuff has been coming to the surface globally and nationally. So it's happening for us on an individual level. Things are coming to the surface. Your secrets and the things that you try and keep hidden to do with your complexes in your mind, to do with your fantasies, and these things will eventually come to the surface, not necessarily for, you know, to ruin you or embarrass you, but it's coming to the surface for you personally to observe what purpose it serves. The sexual exploitation and the pornography and the sexual abuse or molestation or whatever you went through sexually as a young person, as a child, in your adult life that has wounded you, how much more empowered are you as a man or a woman from your experiences to step in a position of protector and healer and spiritual warrior for other people who are having to endure these experiences, or other people who are healing from their experiences. Once you've gone through the healing and transformation, now you're in a position to help. Now you're in a position to contribute. Now you're in a position to really be rooted, to plant within yourself a strong sense of purpose and willpower and how to exert that willpower. So with the water element being reflective and feminine and vulnerable, also comes with a force that purifies and cleanses and purges. So utilize this water element in your thoughts. Cleanse, purify, purge. I've mentioned that drinking water, your environment, your baths, your food, everything plays a part in that water element within you. You keeping it purified and purged, and you doing the work on yourself through your behaviors, patterns, activities, your lifestyle. All of this can serve to help you and to heal you if you take the initiative. So if you're eating poorly, keep in mind this is going to affect your thought patterns. I'm just going to be honest. Eating a lot of pork and junk food and starchy, heavy, greasy foods, and you go to lay down at night and you wonder why you're having bad dreams. You wonder why your mood is disrupted and you're irritable. You wonder why you're having these crazy thoughts, because bacteria, like mold, carries its own energy and its own consciousness. And so it can manifest in us like infections and diseases and things can manifest in us. It's going to affect the mind and how clear your thoughts are. So when you're eating clean, living foods, your thoughts are going to be of a higher octave, of a higher frequency. If you're eating a lot of dead foods and foods that are heavy in salt, a base mineral, it's like you're going to be introducing to yourself base desires, base thoughts, and these fixations. So I wanted to share that with you guys briefly. I hope that you found this information useful. If you're having challenging thoughts, challenge yourself by finding ways to protect your mental body, to protect your thoughts by being proactive in your space and not trying to distract yourself through drugs and alcohol or through television and social media, but actually sitting with your thoughts, breathing through negative thoughts, breathing through negative memories or harmful, hurtful memories, releasing it, speaking over yourself, speaking clarity over your mind, speaking balance, speaking purifying thoughts. And you have to speak these things over yourself. You cannot wait for someone to bring you a magic pill. You can't wait for somebody to lay hands on you. You have to start doing these practices and these arts and these sciences for yourself and on yourself in order to empower yourself. So again, hope you guys found this useful. I'm online at umispeaks.life. You can send me an email, info@umispeaks.life. If you want to book a session, talk about some astrology, build on your life plans, what you've got going on, you can definitely book a session through my site. I appreciate you guys, your feedback, your likes, shares, and subscribes. And so until next time, peace.